you start getting the comments from men, and they kind of just sexualize you. Like immediately, it's like they either go like, "Oh my gosh, you're so hot," or it's like, "You play like a guy." You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. Like it's never a middle ground of like, I really respect what you do. You know, it's just like I had this expectation of you, and you actually can play. That is the number one compliment I get all the time.
The underhanded joint.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you really can play.
Yo, what's good? Welcome to the Mo Mowry Podcast. I'm Tavior Mowry.
I'm Sandy Mowry.
And we're the Mowrys.
It's crazy to me every time you say it.
Why?
It's like I think it's just given. You know what I mean?
That's facts.
But you know.
But I think
it's cute.
I think I gotta keep saying Mowry. You know what I mean? Because it's Mowry. It's not Mowry. It's Mowry.
Let's get into it, shall we?
That wasn't even what I was trying to talk about, but let's get into it.
Mowry. I used to say Mowry. I'll be honest about that thing. Is it weird that I'm facing you completely?
Nah. We chilling. We vibing.
I obviously, and I stand by the fact, okay, that it was presented to me that way.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
To like everybody that way.
Yeah. Hey. So that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. Like you kind of have like a little bit of an edge when it's like it's Maury, and I'm like, that's cool. You know what I mean? And you're right, and you can't blame people for not knowing the right way.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying?
That's real. That's real.
So the edge is a little much.
Yeah, but it's much. It's much. I get it. Mm-hmm. But it's also like, you don't understand where it's coming from. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but that wasn't really what I was trying to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was like, when did you know you were super nice at guitar?
What?
Nah, that you are incredible at guitar.
Thanks.
If I do say so myself.
Thanks.
What I really wanted to talk about was like, what gave you? It does have to do with guitar, though.
Okay.
Like, what gave you the unction and like the desire to be like, hey, I'm about to play guitar, and I'm not over here playing like little sweet chords. Like it's like I'm about to play rock and roll, and like I'm really about to be playing. Like if you've ever seen the New Respects live, like you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen them live, you need to realize what I'm talking about because it's an experience for real. And like Zandy is super like little mellow girl, but like yo, when she gets behind the guitar and Darius is on them drums, you know what I'm saying? Jasmine singing, like you click over. It's kind of very much so similar to like a football player putting on a helmet and getting in between the white lines and being like, oh, he's the nicest person off the field. But then like when he's on the field, you're like, yo, who is that guy? Like what made you like
want to play rock and roll?
What made you want to play rock and roll? What made you be like, oh, like this is what I do? And that like that's not like the only thing you do, right, obviously. But like that's not a very common thing for women, let alone black women. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then what also fuels you when sometimes you may not feel included in the conversation or represented. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Okay. I think I was fortunate enough. So like we grew up dancing behind my aunt, Nicole C. Mullen, who is a Christian artist, and she played. And so she was kind of my representation from a very young age because I started touring with her when I was 11. Okay. And so she was the picture that I needed to know that black women played. Okay. So it wasn't even like far off. Like I Googled somebody and this, but she didn't play rock and roll though.
Right. But you had like an encounter, like it was a tangible thing. You were
I vividly remember. Sorry, I scratched you.
You can touch me though.
Okay. I vividly.
She can't touch me though?
I can. I'm just like, I'm telling a story.
You can touch me though.
Oh my God. I was probably maybe 12 or so, and I remember being like, oh, cool, I want to play guitar. And so she took my hands and she was like, you have the hands for it. And I was like, oh, cool. You know, and I still remember that. Like, thinking like somebody who does it told me that like I can, but not in the like general like, oh, everybody can do this. It was like she grabbed my hands and was like, oh yeah, you're made for this. Essentially, like you can do that easily.
Do you think? Hold on, okay, we're recording for sure. That's good. For sure. Because now, like, I would hate for this to not be recorded because this is special. Do you think that regardless if you would have had like Triumph size hands or like Jimi Hendrix size hands, she would have still been like, you got the hands for it?
For sure. I think that it was more about belief than it was the actual size of my hands. You know what I mean? She was instilling something in me that I didn't even know I needed. But it also was like something to be passed on. Because like it was because she was a Black female. And at the time I probably didn't weigh it like that because I was so young. And because it's something that she did, you know, it feels random if somebody random tells you can do something. So, you know, almost like your parents who, my mom's like not musical at all. So she telling me, oh, you can do that. I'm always like, thanks, Mom. You know?
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, like you kind of tell me I can do everything.
Yeah.
But somebody who does it saying like, you can do this. And she was doing it at a professional level. It wasn't just like, no one knows I play, but I think you can play too. So, I remember her telling me that, and then I remember her telling me, you gotten better than me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it was some years later when I actually started playing, and she was like, oh, you're better than me now. And I remember being like, cool. Like, yeah,
was that a goal or was it like a...
It wasn't a goal. It was just like something that she had recognized, you know, like, because too, like, Aunt Nicole's more of a singer-songwriter than she is like a player. Like in my mind, I wanted to be like a session player, like play for other artists. And she uses guitar more as a tool to get her songs out. And so just by definition, we were headed in different a trajectory that wasn't the same. But I was probably 15 around that time, like when I really started playing and practicing. And I remember though, like learning and telling no one because I was like, I don't want people to know just in case I'm trash.
Just in case you're trash?
Yeah.
What you mean?
Growing up in Nashville, guitar is like you meet a guitar player as often as you meet a person.
Yeah, you throw a rock in here.
Yeah, it's just like everybody plays guitar here, and there are monsters here. Like it's not just like a random hobby. Like
they'd be bagging your groceries and melt your face off.
I mean, like without thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so playing guitar here, I feel like it may be the equivalent of like acting in LA, where it's like, what do you do? I'm an actor. Oh, okay, cool.
It's like.
Yeah. And so here I was like, I am not getting ready to be thrown in that pool.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, what do you do? Like, I play guitar. And people are like, oh, cool. So I was always like, you know, do you play any instruments? Not really, you know.
And was that from like a place of like trying to protect yourself or just being like, I'm not about to stand on this until I'm like thorough?
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's probably pride.
But like, there's wisdom to be like, if you about to serve something, make sure it's cooked.
That's
like,
true.
Don't come up here with the half baked.
Yeah.
Obviously, like if Triumph was like, look at my picture, and it's like,
but at 15,
you're still young though.
I'm young for sure.
Know what I mean,
I am, but it's just I always felt so behind in Nashville because people get guitars at 3 out here. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like I've been playing since I was 5. My dad taught me how to play.
Like,
you know, literally, yeah. And I'm like, I was 15 when I started. So that I felt so behind. But I can't remember. Am I answering your question?
Yeah. Or no, you're like continuously.
Okay, yeah. It. So when she told me like, you've gotten better than me, and I was like, okay, cool. And then shortly after in that season, I started playing for it. Well, I got my first guitar when I was maybe 11 or something for Christmas. It was like a first act acoustic guitar. And I learned like some open chords, but didn't really know how to play. I also remember going downstairs and playing for my dad. I was like, Dad, look what I learned. And he said, I don't think it's tuned.
But them joints go out of tune with one strum. They be like,
yeah. But anyway, so then kind of, I wasn't really playing like that. But then when I was homeschooled for a number of years and we went to a tutorial, so 2 days a week I was in school. Mm-hmm. At that tutorial, there was a teacher named Max Hoffman, who was the guitar teacher out there. And my mom was like picking an elective for my brother Darius, and he was like, she was like, I'm going to put you in guitar. But at the time, I was kind of like copying everything Darius did. Mm-hmm. And so mom was like, Zandy, do you want to learn too? And I was like, yes. And she was like, do you really want to? Or are you just doing this because Darius is doing it? And I was like, no, I really want to learn. And so somehow she worked it out where the school was like Max allowed. What are you laughing at?
That just sounds like mom, like.
Where Max was like, I'll teach Darius. You can pay for Darius. You can just let Zandy sit in. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to worry about it. She can just kind of be a fly on the wall. Which I had no idea that was the deal. He treated me like any other student.
That's fine.
And it ended up being where I excelled in guitar, and Darius kind of lost interest. Like, he's good at everything, but didn't find any entertainment in learning.
Shout out to my same age brother.
So that's when I really took off. Because he taught me some things. Like, I can hear pretty well. Like, I have a pretty good ear. But he like, bridged the gap for me in a way where I could really take off. And I had been listening to John Mayer for around that time. So that was my goal. I was like, I'm trying to be like that. But again, I was like super sheltered. And so he would reference like Eric Clapton, and I'll be like, who's that? And like go and look it up and then look at his licks. And then he would reference, he's like, my friend Jimi Hendrix. And I was like, I knew he was, but I never listened to his music. Go and look it up. And so I think that's kind of what led me to more of the rock, like heavier thing. Because then I would like watch videos of John Mayer and he would talk about pedals. And I would be like, what are those? And what do they do? And over the course of time, I just kind of gained knowledge of like, from guitar players and been like, okay, so electric guitar, rock and roll, electric amps, you know what I mean? Like a Les Paul does this, a Strat does this. But that's been over the last 14 years or something like that. So,
and like going and growing in that direction, how has it been, I guess like culture wise, from like do you see yourself often when you're out on the road playing these shows? Like
never.
What's that feel
the
like?
world social media has made the world a bit smaller. So I'm able to see representation from, you can like look up black guitar player, female guitar players, and you can kind of pull everybody together. But because even in this pool, there's only so many of us, you spread that out across the world, and you're never going to actually rub shoulders, or you rarely will rub shoulders with people who look like you. So at the beginning, like when we started touring as a band, I didn't think about it because Lexi was still in the band.
Right.
So it was like she was on the bass. Lexi's my twin sister. She was on the bass. I was on guitar. Jasmine actually played guitar for the first part of the band. So it was 3 black women playing.
Didn't you play another instrument earlier in the band days?
Did I?
Like a smaller...
Oh, a mandolin?
I just wanted that on record.
Yeah, that was in the folk days. We're talking about guitar, thank you.
Sorry.
But we were always coming together.
Okay.
Like, and presenting this new thing together. So I wasn't really singled out. But when... as time progressed and Lexi ended up leaving the band and then Jasmine just sang and didn't play anymore, I was the only one, to play. And I will say, Lexi was annoyingly good without practicing at all. And so...
Shouts out to Lexi.
Yeah, she could get by with doing nothing. And she's just probably one of my favorite entertainers. Like, she's just great at being on stage. Jasmine never really loved guitar. She loved songwriting from her mom. Like, she's a great songwriter. So, again, guitar was a tool. Guitar was my thing, or is my thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was the instrument that I loved. I loved understanding it. Probably, maybe not understanding all the brain, but I loved playing it.
Why are you looking at me?
Because, we fight about that. So, me becoming a representation for Black women in guitar came naturally. But I don't think I realized that I was like doing something, I don't even want to say new because I was not the first person to do it,
Right.
but doing something rare until you start getting the comments from men and they kind of just sexualize you. Like immediately it's like, they either go like, oh my gosh, you're so hot, or it's like, you play like a guy. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. Like, it's never a middle ground of like, I really respect what you do. You know, it's just like, I had this expectation of you and you actually can play. That is the number one compliment I get all the time.
The underhanded joint.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you really can play.
It's like, well.
Yeah. I don't know what else you... Like, I understand, like, I think it's unfair for me to be like, I don't know what you mean by that. Like, because a lot of women have used their bodies and, like, sex to get by. Right. Almost like what you were saying about sometimes what Christians can do. We can set a standard lower than the normal one and be like, we're the best over here.
And it's like, bro,
Yeah. I think women musicians sometimes, I shouldn't say... I want to be careful in the way that I present this. But because of the way the culture is set up, women musicians who lead with being a woman are often celebrated because they're presenting something that sells. Versus women musicians who lead with musicianship, but maybe aren't showing as much body or anything like that. They're not as celebrated. So the story that ends up being told is, this is a woman musician, the one that's the loudest, versus this grand pool of women who actually are very well-trained musicians, but maybe don't get as much like pop culture looks. So if I went back and like...
That's an eloquent way of putting that.
Thanks. I try to be,
Yeah. I feel like H.E.R does a great job of that.
Oh, phenomenal. She did Beauty and the Beast, like on TV. And she came out doing Tell As Old As Time with the yellow bell dress. And then she had her Strat, the like acrylic one.
The glass joint.
Yeah.
That's hard.
And I felt 5, like watching her do that. I'm like, Disney princess black guitar.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen anything
a lot of
like
boxes
that.
being checked.
100%. Especially as I still feel like giddy about it. But I'm like, that was just so magical to me because it's so rare.
Yeah.
Again, like, you don't see a lot of black women guitarists in that kind of a conversation. So, I mean, huge. And then she did the Super Bowl with Usher. Like, crazy. She, I think, is the first black female guitarist to have a deal with Fender. Like, she's done some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And she can play.
Yeah. She's hard.
Yeah. Sorry, you got me thinking about her. But also Lauryn Hill was a huge influence.
Facts.
When it came to playing. So, like, culturally, I care so much about the craft that I don't really get caught up in a lot of that. But at the same time, when 2020 hit and I wasn't touring and I needed to make money, we had just gotten married that year, and I was like, okay, what do I want to do? I remember like posting on Instagram, and I was like, I'm just going to teach lessons again, because I taught lessons when I was like 17.
Okay.
And this time I could just do it over Zoom. Everybody was getting like a stimulus check, and everybody had...
Stimmies was flowing.
Yeah, everybody
People was trying to cop whatever.
So much time.
Yeah.
And I remember at the beginning, I just posted maybe twice. And I was like, if you want to learn to play, like, I can teach you. And because of my following, I think I was teaching like 30 students a week.
Crazy.
Which was, those days were long.
I remember.
But out of the 30, at least 25 were black women.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like? Like, what was the...
exchange?
Yeah, like, what were they
It was the moment that Aunt Nicole gave me when she looked at me and says, you can do this. I was able to do that over and over and over and over again. And it felt so fulfilling. Like, it felt like something beyond their ability. I wasn't talking about, like, you're about to be the best guitar player ever.
Right.
I was talking about giving them access to a world that maybe we felt shut out of before. And so being able to then be on the other side and be like, no, you can totally do this. And then for the other side, like, learning is such a mental thing. Like, yes, actually retaining knowledge, but there's a lot of emotion that comes in being an adult and learning something new. Because oftentimes you feel shame for not knowing. Yeah. Versus like excitement for the learning.
Right.
And so a lot of my students also, there was like this weaving between teaching guitar, but also like teaching about self-talk and like making sure I would always be like, okay, like in my class, like we're not allowed
open
to
up
say
on that a little bit.
I'm just very serious about like what people are and aren't allowed to say about themselves when we are in a session together. So a lot of times they learn a chord and they'll be like, oh, I suck. Now stop. You don't suck.
Right.
And I don't allow stuff like that. And, okay. And a lot of times it's like a laugh, like, okay. And then they'll keep going and be like, oh, I suck. Stop. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's taught me to be patient with myself. But it's also just opened up a world that I didn't know existed of Black females who want to learn guitar. And so it feels sweet to be on this side. And my guitar knowledge is will never feel as big as I want it because I'm always kind of comparing to like somebody who knows more. So when I'm teaching, I even was so timid. I was teaching, I think my lessons were like maybe $40 an hour or something at the time. Because I had no metric of like values there.
Right. Yeah.
And I was always like, I'm not teaching what these guys are teaching. Like, I don't know how much they know, so maybe I'll just charge this. And I had to learn about self-talk, and I had to learn about when I'm telling these people, like, you're worth more than that. You know what I mean? I had to be like, well, so am I.
Yeah, like, hold up. Yeah.
But it took about a year, you know, or so for me to really understand that. But yeah, playing guitar has been more than like playing guitar. At the very end of the day, electric guitar is wood, strings, electronics, you know what I mean? And depending on what kind of tuners you have, you might have bone or something like that.
Yeah.
That's not the magic.
Right.
It's material. Yeah. It's what you do with it that becomes like super magical.
Right.
And what I've been able to do with where the Lord has taken me because I play guitar has been like the most magical thing. And it's opened up my eyes to relationships I never thought I would have, but also just like equity in people's worlds that I probably would have never had I never picked up the guitar, because it gives me value to them that gives me opportunity to speak in a way that I wouldn't have had if I was just another girl who didn't do this.
Right.
You know? So it's been cool.
That's so dope.
Yeah. I love playing guitar and I always will.
Yeah.
But I love the opportunities that the Lord has given me because of the guitar, even more than that. 90% of my lessons start and end with conversation. You know, like Tavior's always like, do you even teach? You know, are y'all in there talking?
They be out like giggling and stuff. I don't hear no strings buzzing. I'll be like, yo, what y'all doing?
Yeah. But it's sweet. Like, I love people.
Yeah.
And I think that's why with being a Black woman who plays guitar, like, I love what that represents because I know what that does for people. Because I know who Aunt Nicole was to me, who Lauryn Hill was to me.
The representation.
Yeah, and I know what that feels like when I was talking about her, to see somebody and be like, oh my gosh, I could do that, you know?
And not, also it's like, it's not like, oh, that's cute, or like, oh yeah, like that's cool. It's like, oh, like, nah, like you're really holding it down. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, regardless of even like race or gender, it's just like, nah, like you're just raw.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I give you flowers. You know what I'm saying? You can still touch me if you want. I haven't forgot. That was 20 minutes ago.
Right. I'm like, how are you still thinking about that? After everything I've said.
I heard all of
on that.
No, I still heard.
This is marriage. Just so y'all know. This is exactly what it feels like to be married. And then did you remember that you said when we get home? You said,
Hey. Did you really mean what you said?
Yeah, did you say, 'cause at the, like, okay, yes, let me just get myself
well, thank you so much for just revealing that and sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
Of course. That's all I wanted to ask you for now. Can you say salutations?
Salutations.
You sound like Try.
I bet. This is Mo Mowry. I'm Xander Mowry.
I'm Tavior Mowry.
Thanks for watching.
Please like and subscribe. See you soon. Peace.